we need to talk about a crisis that's hiding in plain sight in a major American city. It's a story that starts with a really shocking number, a $22,000 teacher pay gap, and it ends with a generation of children who, quite simply, can't read. So, to really get a handle on a problem this big, you kind of have to start small. Let's begin with just one student on what should have been a totally normal Tuesday morning. I mean, just try to imagine being that kid. You show up to school, you're ready to learn, and the one person you need the most, your teacher, they're just not there. Instead, there's a substitute, just marking time. Your special reading help? Canceled. And that one moment, it kicks off this whole chain reaction of instability that follows this child from school to school.
Now, you hear a story like that, and your first thought is probably, wow, that's a tragedy, a sad, isolated incident. But what if I told you it's not? The sources for this explainer argue that it's something way, way more chilling than that. And that's the gut punch, right there. This wasn't some random accident. It's the completely predictable outcome of a broken system. You've got a cascade of budget cuts, policy choices, data systems that don't talk to each other. Each individual failure might seem justifiable on its own, but when you add them all up, their combined effect is what makes a child like the one we just met, well, it's what makes them disappear.
Okay, so let's zoom back out from that one child and see how this one procedural failure snowballs into a citywide educational catastrophe, especially when it comes to the single most fundamental skill a person can have, reading. 8%. Just let that number sink in for a minute. According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, only 8% of 4th and 8th graders in Cleveland are proficient in reading. We're not talking excellent, not advanced, just proficient. That means 92% of these kids are struggling. They're falling behind every single day. And this chart, it shows just how deep this problem really goes. The national average for reading proficiency, which, by the way, is already pretty worrying at 25%, it absolutely towers over Cleveland's 8%. This isn't just a gap, it's a chasm. It's separating these kids from their peers all across the country.
So what do you even call a failure this big? Well, the source material actually gives it a name, the execution gap. Think of it as the measurable distance between a promise, like the right to an education, and what's actually delivered in the classroom. In Cleveland, that gap is massive.
So what's driving this huge execution gap? Well, the single biggest factor is the person who's supposed to be standing at the front of the classroom. Or maybe more accurately, the person who isn't standing there because, frankly, they can't afford to be.
Just look at this chart. It lays out the financial trap perfectly. On the left, you've got the starting salary for a teacher in Cleveland's public schools, just over $53,000. Now look at the other bars. In the nearby suburbs, that same teacher could be making over $72,000. And the salary you'd actually need to keep great teachers in these really high-need schools, that's over $75,000. The disparity is just undeniable.
And that brings us right back to that key number. There is a $22,000 annual pay gap between what a new teacher in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District makes and the salary needed to get and keep top talent in the schools that need them the most. It's not a gap, it's a canyon. And the fallout from this? It's as predictable as it is devastating. You get incredibly high teacher turnover, almost double the rate of the suburbs. The schools that need the most experienced, most talented educators are instead staffed by brand new novice teachers. And every time a teacher leaves, the school's memory, its understanding of its own students and their needs gets erased. It's just a constant destabilizing churn.
Okay, so the problem is clear, it's measurable, and it's absolutely devastating. But the source material doesn't just diagnose the illness, it actually prescribes a very specific and actionable cure.
It's called the National Teacher Equity Floor. And the idea is actually pretty simple, but it's powerful. You stop letting teacher pay be determined by how wealthy a neighborhood is. Instead, you create a standard, a floor, that guarantees salaries in the highest poverty schools are competitive enough to attract and keep great teachers.
So how would this actually work? Let's just walk through the steps here. Step 1, you set a competitive salary benchmark. It's based on local income data. Step 2, you fund that gap with a federal and state partnership so the whole burden doesn't fall on the local district. And the result? That's step 3. You attract and retain top talent. You make teaching in a high-need school a destination job, not just a stepping stone to somewhere else. And this brings us right to the heart of the issue. This isn't just about salaries or budgets or test scores. It's about whether we as a society truly see every single child as a person who deserves a future. Remember that second grader from the beginning of our story? The source material frames her entire experience with this one haunting question. In that gap between a law that exists on paper and a service that's actually delivered, where did the person go? The answer is she became invisible, erased by a series of administrative failures.
And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. Promises are easy. Passing laws is easy. But the real test of our society, of any civilization really, is what we actually provide to our most vulnerable. Closing this execution gap isn't just an administrative challenge, it's a moral one. It's the difference between a promise made and a promise kept.